Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here. It's running the showdown slate between the Nuggets and the Lakers on Thursday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. I do also want to say thank you guys, seriously, for all support. Did hit 5,000 subscribers yesterday, so thank you. That's crazy to think about. Really appreciate all the support, guys, on Twitter, YouTube, the live streams. Thank you guys again, seriously. Yeah, if you guys are not able to watch the YouTube videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below. It's the DK DFS show. Also, if you guys are interested in the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate, I did upload a video for that, Dolphins, Jaguars. So I think it's an interesting slate. There's a lot of different ways you can go. I will be live streaming for that one, 30 minutes before lock to go over everything. So if you guys are interested in that and you want to check the live stream, make sure to tune in tomorrow. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So before we get in players and the prices for the Showdown slate, let's look back my lineup here. So from Tuesday? So Tuesday, this is in the $50 single entry tournament. I technically cashed, but I tied with like 8 or 9 people like at the money line. So I ended up losing money, but I technically hit the cash line because a lot of people had the same lineup as me. They want the same approach. I wanted to jam in. I was taking a risky approach, right? Because I knew there was a decent chance that Dozier wouldn't play. He didn't. No surprise there. I've literally gotten guessed wrong in Mike Malone and his rotations every single game. I don't think I've guessed right on it. Like the last series, every single time I played Millsap, it was MPJ. Every time I played MPJ, it was Millsap. It's just Denver is just such a hard team to figure out. But a lot of the, again, the sharper players went with the same approach because Dozier was 44% owned. And I just wanted to jam in, the 4 studs. AD had a letdown game. I'm not worried about it. He only had 2 rebounds, a complete outlier. I'm fine going back to him in this slate. I think the ownership will drop in him a bit. But yeah, I played those 4 guys, and Caruso is the value. He was 64%. Again, he was the chalk value in the $50 single entry as well. So kind of funny that I ended up, hitting the cash with a player that did not play. But, again, it allowed me to get the 4 studs, and both these teams, where the offense is coming from. I always say that. LeBron, AD, Jokic, Murray. Everyone else is kind of stay in the corner and, shoot threes. So let's take a look at the Vegas odds here. So it's a 215 over-under. Lakers are 6-point favorites. So this one is interesting because they made it tougher now you can't even play all 4 of the studs if you wanted to. So say we wanted to throw LeBron, AD, Jokic, and Murray in there. Not even possible now. Well, I guess, no, it wouldn't even be possible. You throw in someone at min price, you still wouldn't be able. So it's impossible to play all 4 of the main studs now. And it's even tricky to play 3. It is. So let's just say we jam in the top 3 guys here. Only 4K remaining. You have to play some of the captain spots 1.5x. So I kind of like it. They made it a bit more difficult. And this one, again, the last slate, you could have made a lineup like mine where you got all 4 of them in. For this one, it's impossible. It's hard to get 3 of them in at least. So you're gonna have to make some tough decisions here. LeBron at 12.8, AD at 12.4. Who do I prefer? It's all when they're priced so close. It's basically a coin flip. I'll go AD just because he had the bad game last game. I think the ownership might drop in him a bit. I'm not worried about the 2 rebounds. Right, it was just an outlier performance there. I think he bounces back in this one. So if you made me pick, I'll go AD. But that's not really a strong take. It is when you have like $1,000 difference between those 2. That's when I prefer the cheaper one. But this one's so close, it's almost a 50-50 call. So. Can you play both? Of course you can, right? As far as Jokic goes, he's at 12K. He has been really, really consistent so far in this series, whereas Murray's been a little bit more up and down. Jokic does have a higher floor to Murray. Murray might have a little bit higher upside of what we saw in the Utah series. We haven't really seen it yet too much against the Clippers or the Lakers, like the huge 70, 80 fantasy point game, right? But yeah, so for of the 2 Denver stars, Jokic is the safer option. But don't rule out Murray. You're getting him at a discount, 10-6 compared to the guy's 12K and above. And or I guess he did have at 61 fantasy points last game. Like, the upside is there with him. It is. It's just his floor is a little bit lower compared to Jokic's. Again, you're going to have to make some tough calls. So there's really not a lot of bad things to say about any of the main four guys. It's just what fits with your roster construction. I like all four, obviously. It's just go with what works. Now we get to the interesting part here of the slate, which is like the mid-range and the cheaper guys, right? Because we know the main four guys are going to be super popular. Rondo's at 7-4. Did play 30 minutes the last game, which is good to see. I was a little bit worried about him with the minutes in the series. He's only 22 and 21 minutes. He wasn't playing at 30 minutes he was last series, but he did get 30 that last game. He played really well in the fourth. But it's like 7-4. And not really getting, like, I love Rajon Rondo as a player, but, like, it just doesn't make sense for me to get to Rondo when I get to Murray for $3,000 more. So the mid-range is tricky. If you're going with three of the studs in your lineup, you can't play anyone in the mid-range. You can't. Now, if you go 2 stars, then you can utilize the mid-range a bit, but I don't know if I want to. Like, I don't think the mid-range is really worth it. Like, of these guys, of Rondo, MPJ, Millsap, I know Grant had the big game. I'm not chasing it. Of those guys, Rondo would probably be my favorite, but it just this range of Rondo, MPJ, Millsap, Grant, and Kuzma, I'm really not excited about any of them. If you made me pick, it would be Rondo, but you're probably gonna have to sacrifice a decent amount to get him in there. The positives with Rondo obviously is the do-it-all guy, doesn't have to score to get you there, but we're not getting him at the discount like we were last series or the series before, so that's the tricky part there about Rondo. Yeah, MPJ 6'8". It just the minutes are up and down on him. He's the best offensive player off the bench for the Nuggets, but how many minutes will he get is a big question mark. Playable, but at the price point it makes it tricky. Paul Millsap, the minutes are a little bit up and down. I mean, he's a lower usage guy, so if I was going to take a shot in one of these like 4 Denver forwards in the mid-range, I would just go MPJ and hope he gets extended a bit. But I'm not excited about this mid-range at all. And Jeremy Grant, I'm not going to chase it. The price did drop. He had a really good game. Shot the ball 7 of 11. Pump the brakes here, right? We know what Jeremy Grant's been so far in the playoffs. He's been a sit in the corner, shoot threes guy, very, very low usage, a guy that's gotten like 10 fancy points in 40 minutes. So sure, he had a really good shooting day. I'm not chasing it. I'll let others chase it. The price point did drop, makes him a little bit more playable, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to pass on Jeremy Grant. I think the ownership will be up on him after last game. I will fade. Kuzma at 5'2", will play 20 to 25 minutes. He really has not been great in this series. He has upside to get you like 25 fancy points, but again, not really getting him at an amazing discount. I think Kuzma's in play because he's a little bit cheaper than the other guys, but still not like my favorite play. Danny Green, they have him listed as probable. I think he's going to be good to go. The worry here is only did play 20 minutes. Normally he was a guy at 25 to 30, so that is a little bit worrisome. Now, I think that will lower the ownership. But yeah, for first price, he's definitely in play. And if he plays 25 to 30 minutes, I think there's a decent chance he gets you there. You know what you're getting out of Danny Green. He's a guy that, stand in the corner, shoot threes, a 3-and-D guy, can pick up some rebounds, can get you a blocker or steal, right? He's pretty solid defensively. So I think Danny Green is viable on the slate. KCP, I think, is going to be popular at 4-6. So I think it's for good reason. I think he's a pretty decent play here. He'll play about 30-ish minutes. Very similar player to Danny Green, a 3-and-D guy, can pick up some rebounds, can pick up some blocks and steals here and there. Really has to hit his threes to hit value. But for a guy this cheap, playing about 30 minutes, I think he looks pretty decent. I do like Caruso too. He was the chalk value last game, kind of busted, shot the ball 1 of 7. I'm not super concerned about it. He's also dealing with a wrist injury. I think he's going to be good to go. I think we'll get 25 minutes from him. I think he's a guy that can get like 15 to 20 fancy points. So at this price point, I'm definitely considering Caruso. Gary Harris at 4-2. I know he's been terrible. He has been terrible so far in the series. 2 of 7, 1 of 6, 2 of 5. Will he continue to shoot that bad? Will he continue to play that bad? I don't know. This is an interesting buy low. opportunity here for Gary Harris. Like when he was in the 7K range, or in the 6, what was he, 5-6 last game, wasn't super interested in it. But 4.2K, he is a very similar player to KCP, to Danny Green, a 3-and-D guy. For value, he's got to hit his threes. He hasn't yet so far this series. It's possible though, like he's a decent 3-point shooter. So I actually have interest in Gary Harris. I don't think he's going to be super popular, but it's a nice buy low opportunity here. Dwight Howard at 3.6, he's their best, defender of Jokic. We probably will get about 15 or so minutes from him. He's a guy that is a pretty decent point per minute guy. He can definitely go for 15 to 20 plus. So another value play that I'm looking to, a little bit riskier because the minutes aren't as high on him as they are to those other guys I've talked about, like Green, like KCP, Caruso, Gary Harris. But Dwight is also a slightly better point per minute guy than those guys. So I'm considering Dwight. Markieff Morris, I think, is where I cross the line. I'm not going to get to him. He'll probably get 10-ish minutes, but not enough for me to consider him. Monte Morris had a really nice game last game, 20 minutes, 17 fantasy points. I think he's certainly playable. He'll probably get somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes. He's been a decent point per minute guy. So in a 2.8K, I think he is going to be popular. I think he's going to be really popular. I'm fine getting to Monte Morris, but if I feel he's going to be like the super chalk value, then I'll just look elsewhere. McGee's at 2.4. The risky part with McGee is there's been games where they haven't brought him back in the second half, right? He'll start and play his first shift, and that's it. So if he plays his normal 13 minutes, then he looks like a decent option. But if he only plays 6 or 7 minutes, not so much. So a tricky one. If I knew McGee was going to play his normal rotation of a shift in the first quarter, a shift in the third quarter, I would have a lot more confidence. But we've seen games twice so far in the series where they've pulled him and have not brought him back in again. He did come back in this first game, but that was because of garbage time. So McGee, a little bit of a riskier option too. Plumlee, what you really need here is you need some Jokic foul trouble. You need Jokic foul trouble or a blowout. We saw it the first game, right? Jokic foul trouble and a blowout. He did really well. He's a good point per minute guy, but if we don't get either of those two, he's only going to play like 5 to 10 minutes. So not super excited about that. Torrey Craig at 2K, probably get like 15-ish minutes. Playable value if you need someone super, super cheap, but I'm not prioritizing him really either. And that's like Dozier didn't play last game. Can he play this game? He could. Because it's Mike Malone. I don't know. He's the flat min. If you play him, know the risk. There's probably a better than 50% chance he doesn't play. But we've seen Mike Malone has been super, super inconsistent every single game. So you never know. He could crack the rotation. And if he does, obviously he doesn't have to do a lot to get you there. So that's really it for the breakdown. As far as captains go, well, it's interesting, right? Because let's just say we throw in one of the main 4 guys in the captain spot. And then we throw in, let's just say we throw in 3 studs. 2K remaining. Almost impossible to get a lineup that you're comfortable with. Let's say we throw Jamal Murray in there. 3K remaining. Going to be very difficult to make something that you're comfortable with, right? So it's tricky. I think, the optimal build is probably going to be 3 stars in the utility spot and then 1 cheaper guy in the captain spot. Like, I think that is going to be the way to go because I don't really see the mid-range is just so tough. Like, no one really looks great there. I think it's really the stars and scrubs. So, could you do something like this? Something like, let's just say AD and Jokic, and then, use a little bit more in the mid-range? Yeah, you can, but I don't like that build as much. Because with both teams, the offenses run through 2 players. So my approach to this slate is, and the way that I'm going to build my lineup is, I want 3 of the main 4 guys. And the only way really to do that is you have to play in the utility. So you have to play someone cheap in the captain spot. I'm fine with that. The guys that I would consider as cheaper options, to play in the captain spot. Green, KCP, Caruso, Gary Harris, Dwight Howard. You can consider Monte Morris. If you want to get super risky, McGee, Dozier possibly gets a DNP, but those are guys that would be a lot riskier. But that's probably the way that I'm going to go. I'm going to jam in 3 of those stars of the 4. Don't really know who yet. It's kind of be what fits with my build. And then I'm going to take a shot on someone cheap in a captain spot because I really think you should prioritize getting as many of the main 4 guys in there. And you can't play all 4 in this one, so I think my approach is to play 3 of the 4 and then a cheap guy in the captain. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. So if you haven't enjoyed the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel here if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell just so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. Again, I will be live for the Thursday night football game, 30 minutes before lock, so be sure to check that out, guys. I'll go over everything and answer any questions you guys have. Thanks again, guys. I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you all tomorrow in the live stream.